All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is. It is interview time here on the radio station, and we have the one, the only, the ever so talented Big Ed the Poet live on the line. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing awesome.
I gotta say, man, I've really been enjoying your poetry, man. I gotta say, it's really cool to actually have an amazing poet like yourself live on the radio.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, man, you are most certainly welcome, man. And that's what I like to do. I like to give talented individuals like yourself opportunities, man. You know, a lot of radio stations, they don't do stuff like this, but I see that. I read your poetry, man. And I gotta say, it's much better than what I ever seen down here in Canada.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And I gotta ask you, man, like jumping right into this, like I also notice aside from doing poetry, you're also in the music industry as well. Like I have to ask you, what actually made you get into the music industry initially?
Oh, I just always loved music. My late father brought me up in a house full of music. I mean, soul music, classic soul, rock and roll, everything, gospel. And so it just rubbed off on me. And also, I really, music also runs in my family. Yeah, it runs in the family.
I have to ask you, like, how far does music actually go back in your family?
Wow, I mean, it goes, I want to say way back to my dad's dad and just way back to the ancestors, way back. We even had, we even have on my dad's side, we have famous, famous people, on his side. My aunt is a famous singer.
And I gotta say, man, it sounds like you were just taking on your family's legacy, man. You definitely have the talent in your blood.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And one thing as well, I have to ask, because like I noticed when I was doing my research on Google, I saw that you actually have a Spreaker account. I was wondering, do you actually plan on using that account for like your music and poetry and creating a podcast?
I would love to. I would love to. I was on there, I really was on speaker listening to other people's podcasts, but that's definitely something that I would love to get into in the future. So that definitely, that door is definitely open. Yeah.
And I have to ask you as well, like if you do actually decide to go get into that route, like do you have like a little idea of what actually you want to create? Because I know you have a big fan base, and I think they would most definitely love just to be able to experience, like the DJ side of Big Head the Poet.
Absolutely. And that's definitely what I would do. I think I would definitely spin records and, spin hip hop and just music, indie artists and some mainstream and, of course, poetry and just have an avenue to do, like podcasts and maybe interviews, all of that. I mean, it's definitely a dream of mine. I've always, believe it or not, wanted to be a DJ. So, yeah.
And also, as we already talked about, like you're Big Ed the Poet, and you're also well known in the poetry community, of course. And I have to ask you, aside from music, like what actually made you actually get into poetry? Was it just from like your family growing up as well?
Well, poetry and music, I guess it all, to me, it all stemmed back from hip hop. Like my dad, he started the fire. My late father, he read me Rudyard Kipling, Gunga Din, and ever since he did that, he prayed for me. He prayed that I would have this gift, and I just next thing I knew, I started rhyming. I started writing, and I was writing and messing with beats, and it just hit me. So poetry really was my first love, but then I found out it's related to hip hop. So yeah, I just at times I turn it into rap. Like I have a lot of poems around, like mixtapes around, mix CDs where I actually put a lot of my poems to beats, and that's something I want to look into as well. Like releasing some of it, absolutely, getting it mixed and mastered.
And I also saw that some of your poetry is actually featured in the book Memphis Has a Voice Too, a poetry anthology. I have to ask you, tell us a bit more about that, and of course, where can our listeners actually snag themselves a copy of that book?
Absolutely. It's on Amazon.com, and it came about when I was in Memphis. I was heavy into the open mic scene, and I ran, it was just a poetry mecca. So many poets, and I happened to run across this guy, Gerald Brown, and he liked what he heard, and Next thing I know, he approached me. He was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be doing this poetry compilation book, and would you like to be a part of it?" Of course, I was like, "Absolutely," because I'm always open. Like even right now, I'm always open for opportunities to be in compilations and all of that. And that's how it came about. And absolutely, and it's available on Amazon, Amazon.com. You can find it. Memphis has a voice too, and it's available on Amazon. And also that other book I have there is also available on Amazon.com. I have it written down, The Voices of Hope and Healing, because I was also in a poetry club, and it's like it's a book of inspirational poems. So there are two books I'm available that are available on Amazon that I'm featured on. Yep.
And of course, like you said a few moments ago, you know what I mean? That like you're always up for opportunities, and that's the best way as well to get your name out there just as a poet. You know what I mean? You have someone coming to you wanting you to be featured in their book, man. That's a phenomenal opportunity. Especially, I believe you're out in the New York area, so that's way out down south, out in Memphis, man. So that's a great hookup.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I recently moved up here because I was in Memphis first, and I moved up here. I think it was last year, and I'm originally from Helen, Arkansas. So I've just been on a one long journey. It's amazing. I mean, it's really amazing.
I gotta be honest, man. I haven't even experienced my full country yet. I haven't even really left Ontario, so you know what I mean. You're getting the Big Ed the Poet's getting around much more than DJ Immortal. But I have to ask you, man, what is it like just living out in New York, living out in New York City, man? Because I heard that city never sleeps. There's always something to do out in NYC.
Well, I'm not in the city. I'm actually out here in the southern tier, like south of Buffalo in Cuba, New York, and so I'm out here in this is kind of like the country land, and I mean it's beautiful out here. It's really beautiful. I mean it's farmland, and it's a slower pace than the big city, and so I mean this is actually would be a nice area. I would say like for a husband and wife to actually come and settle down, you know, and have a family. I mean it's very beautiful here. This is very nice up here where I am.
And it's also a great environment as well to just sit there and get inspired and write poetry, man. You know, because you just got the fields, you got the crisp, clean air. You don't have trains and cars like honking their horns and whatnot. You guys have peace and quiet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, indeed. Very inspiring.
And I also noticed as well that you actually have done work. Sorry, your work has been featured in Voices of Warriors, poems of hope and healing. Like you mentioned earlier, I was wondering, can you tell us a bit more about that? And of course, what was it like taking part in that project? Because you know, it sounds like a phenomenal opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, that took place when I was in the Spartan City Poetry Club in Memphis, Tennessee, and it was a great experience. At the time, it was under the direction of a lady named Jessica Crenshaw. It's now defunct, but it was a great experience, and I mean, I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of people through in the poetry club, and also on the open mic scene in Memphis, and just and everything has just been growing. I mean, from the people that knew me in Helena, they knew me as MC Lee, and I made a new fan base in Memphis. Then I got on the internet and interacted with a lot of people from there, and just it's just been growing. And so I would say I'm blessed. I'm definitely expanding. I'm definitely expanding my brand. I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
And most definitely, the internet in 2020 is a phenomenal thing, man. It's like I'm starting to believe there's something that you can do everything on the internet. There's not one thing that you can't do on the World Wide Web nowadays.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And also, aside from poetry as well, I also noticed that you were actually part of the play titled Cougar's Passion. In 2018, I was wondering what actually made you decide to get into the acting side of things, and of course, how did you land your part in Cougar's Passion?
Wow, that's amazing. I met, and then this goes back to the poetry club. When I was in the Spartan City Poetry Club, I met this beautiful artist, Ellen Butterfly, and it was her play, and we've been friends, and so she was just interested, like, hey, you know, do you want to be in my play? So I auditioned, and that was the role that I got is the security guard, and I mean, it was a lot of fun, a whole lot of fun. Like like it was a great experience. I had only acted one other time in my life when I was a young child. I played the gingerbread man in a play, but that was a lot of fun. Just and I mean, and it's a great play. It really was a great play. Absolutely, and it was based on a story out of one of her books. But an awesome experience, a very awesome experience.
And like, of course, like as we already know, you're a poet, so you already go on stage and like do your poetry. But when you were up there doing the play, like you know what I mean, did it feel like different being up there? Did you get any stage fright at all? Because like I said, you're a performer, but like was it difficult like transitioning from like performing poetry to actually acting in front of an audience?
It really came natural. I mean, we rehearsed a lot. We would rehearse at our house, and we rehearsed it just so well. You know, we stayed on the rehearsal, and so when it came time to hit the stage, we were ready, and and so that I guess that all comes down to practice makes perfect. It just came natural. Absolutely, it was no pressure. No, I had a lot of fun. I would love to do something like that again. Hopefully, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I would love to see you actually in a play myself, man. This COVID-19 situation is really messing up a lot of things currently in 2020, unfortunately.
Absolutely, and I just want to say on that note, I want to definitely send my condolences to everybody out that's lost somebody and is dealing with that because it's very serious business. And I'm just and I even write poems about this. I'm hoping that there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and just maybe people can learn to get along, and maybe we can put some of these differences aside because life is just too short. Life is too short for drama.
And also, I noticed as well that you have also been a part of Insomniac Poet Writers Unblocked Pen Party. I was wondering, can you tell us a bit more about that and what exactly is Insomniac Poet Writers?
Absolutely. I met this lady online, Miss Parker. She also goes by Miss Parker Speaks, and it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's a writers collective, like really a writers workshop. And we have a pen party that we started out meeting on Facebook, and now we meet on Zoom. And I would actually, just say all poets. I mean, I really would like to see us grow even bigger. We basically she just gives us tips and how to become a better writer, and it's like a writer's workshop, and we basically expand our pens. Absolutely.
And that's really cool as well, despite the pandemic, that you can actually go on Zoom and use technology to really actually still do those workshops together. It's actually really cool.
Absolutely, it's a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of people over there. I mean, it's just amazing. Like that's one thing I can say from whether it's an open mic, whether it's the internet. Really, it's amazing just how our brand can expand. I mean, we just don't know who we're going to meet and where it's going to take us. So I would just say to anyone, don't never despise small beginnings because you don't know who you're going to meet anywhere. So always be on your A game and always treat others like you want to be treated because opportunities. Absolutely.
And I also saw as well, aside from doing theater, doing poetry, and also music as well, I saw that you were actually a motivational speaker, and I was wondering, do you have any words of motivation that you could tell our listeners right now that are actually going through a tough time during this during 2020 and this pandemic?
Absolutely. I would definitely say don't give up. Keep dreaming and just realize, understand that dreams come true. I know it sounds cliche, and I know it gets hard out here. I mean, I just really look at what's going on now. People are losing their jobs. People are really going through a whole lot. And I would just say keep your head up, tap into your spirituality or just stay positive. Whatever your thing is, stay positive. That's the main thing. Stay positive because it's going to get better. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And when this smoke clears, the sun is going to shine.
And I gotta say, there is no better advice that I could probably say, man. That is probably the best advice that I have actually heard. But I have to ask you, Big Ed the Poet, what is next for you, man? Is there any new poetry, any new books, anything you're currently working on right now that I happen to miss during this interview that you actually want to promote and let our live listeners know? Well, we still have you here on the Canadian airwaves.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely want to just tell everyone, definitely look out. I'm definitely, I know it's a process, but I'm working on my first book, and so I'm looking for publishers and just looking to, to figure out how I'm going to go about it. But I'm definitely going to have my first book coming out soon. I would say, as to be released, as to be announced. And I'm definitely going to continue to do music and make beats and do poetry, and you definitely would see me on the internet, and absolutely. And so just look out. I mean, I say anything is possible, and I'll also say anybody listening, I'm open for features, or if you feel, if you want to add, if you want to work with me, I'm open. So hit me up. I'm definitely available.
And so, Big Ed, this is the time in the interview that I give a chance for the individual that slides into our radio station airwaves, just a chance to give shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to, and of course your social media handles. That way our listeners can connect and follow you and stay updated on all your poetry if they're not already doing so.
Absolutely. Well, I want to give shout outs to all of the listeners. I want to also give a shout out to you and also say thank you, first and foremost, for this interview and opportunity. And basically, shout outs to the Insomniac Poets and just all of my fans and friends and family and anybody that's into Big Ed or anyone that listens to my poetry. Thank you for listening. Continue to support me. Continue that. And also the social media. I am on Facebook as Edward Lee McDaniel with Big Ed in parentheses. And on IG, I am Big Ed the Poet at IG.
And I gotta say, Big Ed, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy evening and just giving us a little bit of your Sunday evening, man. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your book when it does get released. But most definitely stay in contact anytime you need anything radio promotional wise. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, man. I most definitely got you covered.
I really, really, really appreciate that. And I just also want to say again, thank you very, very much, humbly. Thank you so much.
Hey, you are most certainly welcome, Ed. You're a talented poet, and I most definitely, when I heard your poetry, I was like, I gotta book this guy for an interview, man. I go by talent, and that is exactly what you have. So I'm really excited to see what you actually have in the works for 2021.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, indeed. I say the sky's the limit, and I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to the future.
And that's the best route to look at it as. Thank you so much, Big Ed. Have yourself a wonderful night, and most definitely stay safe out there out in New York State.
Absolutely. All right.